The top stories this week are Phillies win the World Series, Ken Maka is manager again, and Kiflin has a beef with the NFL.
All that and more this week on the Rider Sports Corner.
Welcome to this week's edition of Rider Sports Corner. I'm Olivia Hoff.
And I'm Tom Malachi. Forget all the taunting, jokes, and the insults. The city of brotherly love finally holds bragging rights again. The Philadelphia Phillies beat the Tampa Bay Rays 4-3 in Game 5 of the World Series. This is the first time the Phils won the championship since 1980. Yeah, you heard me right. The Phillies are world champions. But that's not the only history changer in this historic series. The win came nearly 50 hours after Game 5 started. This was because the game was suspended due to rain, causing the game to resume over 2 days later in the bottom of the sixth. Cole Hamels was named the series MVP, but expressed humility when accepting the award.
Philadelphia fans were reasonably excited for their team's win in the World Series, but the celebrations may have gone a little too far. Patty Wittenberg has the story.
When any other city wins a World Series championship, they celebrate. But what does Philadelphia do? Well, they start a riot, of course. Philadelphia fans were rightfully excited and proud for their beloved Phils, but took their excitement a bit too far when they began to swarm the streets of Philadelphia late on the night of October 29th. This happened just minutes after Brad Lidge sealed the deal, throwing the final pitch at the top of the ninth inning in the fifth game of the 2008 World Series, making Philadelphia something they had not been in 28 years: World Series champions. Last week, I met with Dr. Moore, who told me that a win in Philly would bring a lot of revenue and celebrating to the streets of Philadelphia.
If we look at sports consumers as a separate group, they're going to be happy if their team wins. So therefore, you're going to expect some spending.
He was right. With the championship under their belt, the city of Philadelphia has earned millions of extra dollars in revenue. But what they have also earned is a couple thousand belligerent and rioting fans. The fans took to Broad Street and began their riots, stealing things such as stop signs, flipping over cars, and starting fires in the street. Eventually, police were called in and they helped to disperse the crowd, but not before they made 76 arrests for robbery, assault, arson, and disorderly conduct. The city of Philadelphia held a parade just 2 days later on October 31st, but I guess the fans just couldn't wait the extra 2 days to celebrate. For the Rider Sports Corner, this has been Patty Wittenberg.
The Milwaukee Brewers are welcoming a new manager to their corporation. Well, kind of new. The Brewers announced the hiring of 58-year-old Ken Maka as team manager. Maka, who signed the contract last week, was formerly with the Oakland A's, where he took that team to a pair of ALS titles. He was quoted as saying, "I can be nothing but a better manager now that I come here to Milwaukee." Maka will be replacing Dave Sveum, who named the interim manager after former manager Ned Yost was fired. The hockey team was in action again this week. Garrett Williams reports.
Coming off a devastating loss to Wagner, the Rider ice hockey team needed a win against the University of Pennsylvania. UPenn was able to get a 6-3 win over the Bronx in their first matchup this season. Captain Jim Fritz said after the game that the team was not clicking on all cylinders and should not be discouraged about this loss.
You can really tell a lot of players weren't clicking. We didn't really have what we usually do. I think that it's just really we came in really lightly on the team and we didn't really take them seriously. But I think in the end, I think it was really a learning experience for us, and hopefully we'll get them next time.
During the game, Rider had two two-man advantage power plays, but both came up empty. The team must improve their power play and has plans to do so this week in practice.
Really, it's just going to be a lot of stuff in practice. We'll really work on that in practice, work the 5-on-3s, 5-on-4s, just power play in general. We didn't really have it. We're not moving around to the points enough, but overall, just need to get some more shots, and that's about it.
Rider gave up 37 shots to UPenn, a statistic that must be lowered. Defenseman Dennis Gibson explains what the team will do to lower this number.
I feel like we'll come together at practice. We'll come together next week. We just had a rough weekend. I mean, we were on a 5-6 game winning streak. I mean, it could be due for us. Who knows? I mean, we will clamp down. We will come together. We will have a good end of the season.
In a game at Princeton last season, Gibson was injured and unable to play until this past weekend. He explained what it means to him to be back on the ice.
It feels pretty good. I mean, I worked really hard the last couple months getting back in here, trying to do as much training as I could to get my arm back in shape. I mean, it's a tough recovery to come back from. It's not that easy. It's about 9-10 months recovery, so.
Rider now sits in 5th place in the Masha standings. They can climb higher in the standings this weekend with the win over division rival Rowan University. For Rider Sports Corner, this has been Garrett Williams.
Looks like Lane Kiffin's argument with Oakland Raiders owner Al Davis isn't over. Kiffin filed a complaint through the NFL Coaches Association to Commissioner Roger Goodell, seeking $2.6 million in salary owed after his firing. Davis claimed that Kiffin made remarks against the Raiders, which was considered a violation of Kiffin's 3-year, $6 million contract. Raiders executive John Herrera issued a statement saying, "Mr. Kiffin was terminated for cause. The grievance is without merit." This is not the first time that Al Davis has refused to pay a fired coach. Mike Shanahan filed a similar grievance after being fired by Davis in 1989. The NFL sided with Shanahan. However, he is still owed $300,000.
This season, when mentioning Plaxico Burress, it's always about his off-field issues. Burress has been the one exception to the team concept that head coach Tom Coughlin has instilled upon his team. The trouble started in September when Burress failed to show up to a team meeting and was suspended for 2 games. Then in October, Burress was fined for arguing with a referee after a pass interference call. The next week, Burress was benched for the first quarter against the Steelers for missing a mandatory treatment with the team officials for a shoulder injury. Now, teammates like fellow receiver Amani Toomer have begun to voice their frustrations with Burress. If there is a positive in all of this, younger receivers like Dominic Hickson and Steve Smith have shined in his absence.
Marion Jones was interviewed for the first time since serving out her 6-month jail sentence for lying to government prosecutors about former performance-enhancing drug use. On the Oprah Winfrey Show, Jones said she admitted her drug use and pled guilty because she could no longer live with the lies. Jones said she believed she could have still won her 5 Olympic medals without taking the drugs she received from notorious pharmaceutical company Balco. Before the trial, Jones was stripped of her medals, 3 of which were gold, and had her performances erased from the record books. Jones said she can now live with herself for being honest about her mistakes.
The field hockey team looked to end their season with a win in a tough NEC matchup. Patty Wittenberg was there to check it out.
The field hockey team is trying their best to bounce back after a hard-fought loss to Lock Haven, which happened last week. Diana Celebre talked to us after the game about the loss to Lock Haven and what it meant to come out on top against Monmouth.
Even though we lost to Lock Haven, we really played awesome. And it was such a close game that even though we had the loss and now that we got the win, it still puts us, we still, I think, have great momentum going into the playoffs.
The Rider team is always looking for talent where they need it. Kelly Christ is transferred from Monmouth University and led their team in scoring. Christ, after the game, talked to us about facing her old team.
My focus on it was another game, but in the back of my mind, I knew I was playing it was going to be a big game for me, and I knew all the girls on the team, so I kind of worked it to my advantage, knowing how they played on the field, knowing the strong points and the weak points, so I tried to use that to my advantage. I'm just happy our team was able to put 2 goals in early. We were able to shut them out. It was just bittersweet, just beating them.
After the game, emotions were running high, and with the playoffs coming closer, the girls had a lot to say about the game they had just played and their upcoming matches.
We needed this win really bad because it puts us in a good position to go into playoffs, and going into playoffs with a win is great for us. So
yeah, now we're going to tournament and they're going back home. So I can't wait till tournament. This is my first appearance ever, and I'm just looking forward to going all the way.
Defense played a huge role in their shutout, and also the play of goalkeeper Lindsey Johnson was a key factor to ensuring the win.
Defense is really being powerful and strong in the circle, and Lindsay's seeing a lot of shots, but pretty much the defense is really getting the ball out before it hits her in the circle.
We all work hard for the shutout, and it doesn't just look good for me, it also looks good for them, and just a defensive unit. It's awesome to have another shutout. It's especially going to the NEC tournament, with a strong note like a shutout, it says a lot for our team going in.
Their next game is against Sacred Heart, and the girls hope they will advance to the NEC tournament. This has been Patty Wittenberg for the Rider Sports Corner.
It's the beginning of the Mike D'Antoni era for the New York Knicks, but strangely, it started without the familiar presences of either Stephon Marbury or Eddie Curry. Coach D'Antoni decided to bench both superstars the entire game in which the Knicks won against the Miami Heat. Curry was dealing with a knee injury from a collision during practice earlier in the week. Before the game, he had the knee drained to bring down swelling, then left during the last 24 minutes of the game to ice it. Marbury had no injury problem. It remains to be seen if this is going to be a recurring theme for D'Antoni and Marbury throughout this season as D'Antoni attempts to rebuild the Knicks.
The Portland Trail Blazers are suffering another setback in their starting lineup. Center Greg Oden injured his foot during his first regular season NBA game against the Los Angeles Lakers and will be sidelined for 2 to 4 weeks. The injury comes after his entire rookie season was postponed by microfracture surgery on his right knee. During the preseason, Oden averaged 11.5 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 23.7 minutes in 6 games.
Rider alum Jason Thompson made his NBA debut this past week when his Sacramento Kings took on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Thompson had a double-double on the night with 18 points and 10 boards for the Kings as he rallied to steal the game in the closing minutes. Though the Kings lost, Thompson has shown that he can compete at the NBA level and be as much of a leader as he was with the Rider Bronx.
The men's soccer team met with Manhattan this past week in another MAC conference game. Olivia Hoff was there for the game.
On this bright autumn day, Rider takes on Manhattan, but today they're not alone. Code Cranberry was in effect on Friday as the Bronx battled against the Manhattan Jaspers. Students arrived early to have good seats for the MAC game. The game itself was a physical contest that tested the determination and stamina of both teams. Manhattan would go out on an early lead in the first half with a goal, but the Bronx didn't get bogged down. Nico Tramontana would feed freshman Salabrana with a long pass, who then scored his first collegiate goal, tying the game before halftime. After the break, the Jaspers would quickly take the lead, but the Bronx would come back yet again with a goal by Nico Tramontana, assisted by Adam Coates. Tramontana on his goal.
I wanted to come back and I wanted to score another one. I want to beat them because our record's just not doing too well this year. We had a lot of injuries, like 9 at one time for like 2 weeks, so it was really hard. But honestly, you just got to really stay really composed, and especially with the fans going crazy after you score, and you just have to just get back and keep your head in it. So I just wanted to get another one pretty much.
The game would ultimately come down to tough physical play as referees were letting the players match brawn for brawn. Manhattan would get the ball back and score towards the end of the game. The Bronx tried their best to match that goal as they had done twice before, but were unable to. Nico Tramontana wasn't letting the loss get him down.
We got 2 goals in one game, which is really good. That's a good percentage. Usually we've been like maybe losing 1-0 or 2-1 or winning 1-0. So we got 2 goals. We actually came back from 2-goal deficit. Like they scored, we scored, they scored, we scored. So with staying our heads in the game and moving on and scoring another goal and just keeping our heads throughout the whole game was really good, and that's a big positive. If we take that against St. Peter's was the same thing last year. We lost 4-3. And it was the same exchange of goals. So if we take that into the next game, I think we'll do really well against St. Peter's.
Although it's been a tough season for the Bronx, they can at least be proud of their competitive spirit. This has been Olivia Hoff for the Rider Sports Corner.
Every week, Mike and Mark discuss hot topics in the sports world. Hey guys, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks guys. Let's see what our first email is this week. Mike from Hill wants to know, what was our opinion of the World Series?
I thought it was great. I was able to go to the Game 5, both of them, and I thought it was good. Both teams played hard. I thought all the games were terrific.
I honestly thought it could have been a little bit better. I mean, it was 4-1. I thought there would have been a little bit more competition from the Rays, and the teams, I wasn't really sold on.
Yeah, but if you look at individual games, the competition was high. I mean, the score last night was 4-3. The scores before were tie in the 9th inning, and then the Phillies were able to take it to the top.
Right, but honestly, my thing is, if you live in Philadelphia and Tampa Bay, you're the only ones that really are interested. If you live anywhere else in the country, why do you care about this?
All right, well, look at the Super Bowl where Seattle played the Steelers. I mean, anyone
but
from
Super Bowl is a different thing.
It doesn't
from the
matter.
World Series.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
Fan
does.
base
It's a
is the
totally
same.
different thing.
You're telling me that people from Seattle, there's going to be a ton of other people around the country just absolutely happy that Seattle made it.
Well, I guess to each his own. All right, well, let's go to our next email. Pat from University House wants to know if Brett Favre is the next victim of the Madden curse.
I'm going to say yes, only because he had a young team last year, took them to the NFC Championship, and this year he's done absolutely nothing to show.
I'm going to have to go against that and just say it's just Brett Favre being Brett Favre. At age 39, I don't think he has it left.
Right, I'm going to agree with you. I do think he's old, but yet he's got some vet wide receivers that he should be hitting. He's got the arm strength to do it. He's just not doing it.
But if you look, the last 4 years, minus last year, he has been horrendous in this league. He's been horrendous, and he should have retired a long, long time ago.
Okay, last season, in the regular season altogether, he had 15 interceptions total.
Right.
Now he's already at 11.
Yeah.
So I mean,
just because you're on the box of a game is not going to make you play worse.
You're right, but that's not a drastic difference in age, is it? It's 1 year difference. So
Still,
age last year didn't affect him, did it?
He's going to a worse team.
Age did not affect him last year, did it?
No.
If age is going to be your reason, it did not affect him last year.
I'm just saying, the older he gets, the worse he plays.
So you're saying age is going to affect him this year. 1 year difference.
Just look at the way he plays. He's got 11 interceptions.
Look at his wide receivers he's got. So Cottry's not good. Lavernius Cole's not good.
I'll take the Green Bay wide receivers over the Jets wide receivers.
So you're taking the younger guys over the vets.
I will take Green Bay as a whole over the Jets.
Well, then you're looking at it from a defensive standpoint because their
I'm
offense
looking at
should
it as Brett Favre should have retired at like age 34.
I agree with you, but he's still here, and I still think that this is from the curse.
He's still here. They need to go. They need to draft because he is not the long-term answer.
You're right. He's not, but they need to, straighten up. All right, for our next email, it's Katie from New Building who wants to know who will be Rookie of the Year from the NBA.
That's a great question because I think there are a lot of new young guys that can really step up this year, but I honestly think it's going to be Derrick Rose from Chicago.
I'm actually going to have to go with Jason Thompson, and not because he came to Ryder, but because after his first game, I thought he looked pretty good, and I think they need someone to step up right now.
Right, and that's because you said they need him to step up, and I think that's what Derrick Rose is going to do. He plays on a team with basically no-name guys, but, they're decent. The only guy they really have is Ben Gordon, and I think Derrick Rose is going to step up and take that leadership position, and it's really going to show this year.
Okay, I think, though, it's also going to come down to playing time, obviously. I mean, the two other power forwards that he's playing with, are not doing that well in the first game. I mean, one of the two only had like 7 points. He has 18 points and 10 rebounds.
Right, but I think the reason why Derrick's going to get it over someone like Jason is just for the fact that since he was the #1 pick, the spotlight's going to be on him every single game, whereas when Jason plays, it's not going to be on him. And plus, he's playing on Sacramento.
With every mistake he makes, though, it's going to be double the problem.
That's
because the spotlight's on him. So if
but
he messes
I honestly
up,
don't think he's going to
be
making that many mistakes.
Well, he plays for the Bulls, and you said that they're lacking.
Yeah, they're lacking
right now.
The guys aren't that bad. I mean, they were.
So he has to make that team really shine to get it.
The year before and the past year, they weren't horrendous, but they definitely need Derrick, and I think he's going to be the one to get them over the hump to be a perennial playoff team.
All right, well, I guess we're going to have to wait and see because I definitely think Jason Thompson can do it.
And for our last question, Eric from Omega House wants to know if Ron Artest will be a distraction for the Houston Rockets this year.
I think he will be a distraction. I think that, once you get to that point, it's never going to leave, especially in the eyes of the fans. So when he goes to a stadium where they start heckling him again, I can see the same problem happening again.
I'm going to say that he won't be a distraction because I think he's kind of taken that T.O. route where he realizes he's kind of at the end of his career and he should just kind of just be happy that he's still playing right now.
You're right, but then again, I mean, he has to be happy where he is, and if they don't do well this year, at the end of the year when he starts getting frustrated again, stuff happens, and when he gets frustrated game after game.
I don't think that's going to be a problem because Houston was a playoff team last year, and Artest said that he's happy to be in Houston with Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming.
Right.
And he said if they don't win the championship, it's a lost
You're right,
season.
and he's going to behave now like T.O. did when he came to the Cowboys. He was all thrilled that he was there. He loved the team
He's
and everything.
He's going to be fine this
and
year.
now he's not getting the ball, so now he's complaining. Artest is going to have the same issue.
No, I really think he's going to be fine.
He's going to start in the
He
beginning of the year. He's going to be fine, and then as the year goes on, if he gets frustrated, he's going to blow up. He
realizes that this is his last chance, and he has a fantastic chance to make it to
You're right, but it's his mentality. It's his mentality. You're not going to change that.
Yes, I think he can. I think he's going to change this year.
No, I don't think so. That's all we have for this week. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Mike and Mark. Now let's take a look at this week's Ryder Recap. That's all we have for you this week. Be sure to tune in next time for another edition of RSC. I'm Olivia Hoff.
And I'm Tom Malachi. Have a great week, Ryder.